Plastilene Grupo in this sustainability event. The countdown is over. Today, November 13th, we are broadcasting from the Tocancipá plant in Reciclene. And today I have with me, of course, Mr. Stefano Pacini, our president of Plastilene Grupo, and Ricardo Estrana, our President of Sustainability and Global Purchase, and I would like to welcome them. And to not wait any longer, we're going to start this conversation. Thanks to all of you that are on the call, and for those of you who are going to see us later on, welcome you all. Thank you, Luisa, and thank you to all the people that have joined us, both present now and the recording. We have about 600 confirmations, which is a positive thing. I think it is amazing, but there is a set as a sustainability report, and today we want to talk about our experience, which we have learned throughout these years, which have been years full of challenges and learnings. We are broadcasting from Reciclene. During our first sustainability report, we committed to have a post-consumption plant. It is a reality. We have been recycling for the last 4 years, and we have been working very hard to improve quality of our PCRs, and in the same way supporting everything that has to do with regulations, where Colombia is at the forefront to make sustainability be a reality in Colombia based on science and not passions. A very interesting part of what we're going to show you today is the navigation on the territories that we are operating, including not just Colombia and the South American region, but also the Central American region and now the United States. And throughout these years, we have learned a lot there. Our objective continues to be the same: to be a responsible company that is bound by the regulations, looking into the future in a responsible manner. So I hope our presentation is interesting to you all. And without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Ricardo, who's here with us today. Thank you, Stefano. Greetings to everyone. Today we're going to use a methodology that we have divided into parts. The first part, we're going to talk about legislation in all the regions where we have operation. And here we're going to have a series of experts in the industry or associated to the industry in each one of these regions. After that, we're going to have a presentation where we're going to go through all the plans, but this time we're going to be showing you what we are doing, what are the solutions that we are offering to comply with the legislation. And here we're going to hear our collaborators and officials of the plants. Okay. So, having explained and welcomed you, we're going to start this tour with the first two countries that we have to show you today. In this case, it's Colombia and Ecuador. We're going to look at a video. In the chat on YouTube, you can set your questions and we will have some spaces to answer them. So let's look at the regulatory framework in Colombia and Ecuador and how we are abiding by it.
Arrancamos en la reforma tributaria de 2016 con el impuesto a las bolsas plásticas, que entró a regir a partir de 2017 con un valor de 20 pesos por bolsa, 30, 40, 50, con esos ajustes cada año y después ajustado por inflación. Luego tenemos la resolución 1407 de 2018, que es la resolución sobre los planes de gestión de residuos de empaques y envases, conocido también como la regulación de la responsabilidad extendida del productor, o REP, que básicamente lo que indica es que toda empresa que lleve al mercado algún producto que esté empacado o envasado en cualquier material: plástico, papel, cartón, vidrio, metal, debe formar parte de un plan de gestión de residuos y cumplir con unas metas de aprovechamiento o reciclaje. Pasamos a la ley de los denominados productos plásticos de un solo uso en 2022, donde tenemos un listado de productos que debe transitar hacia alternativas sostenibles biodegradables o fabricadas con materiales reciclados, con unas excepciones adicionales que establece la norma para bolsas, pitillos, mezcladores, rollos de bolsas, en un primer momento 2024 y en un segundo momento 2030 para las vajillas, vasos, cubiertos y similares. Y finalmente tenemos la reforma tributaria de 2022 que crea el impuesto nacional sobre los productos plásticos de un solo uso utilizados para envasar o embalar bienes que quedan exceptuados con una serie de condiciones y que adicional a eso no se causan ante el cumplimiento de unas metas de circularidad. En el gremio hemos estado permanentemente en conversaciones con el Congreso, con el gobierno, con las autoridades locales, en medios de comunicación y demás, a raíz de toda esta regulación del plástico. Y en el caso de Plastilene, pues el papel ha sido fundamental desde el impuesto a las bolsas plásticas, con todo ese conocimiento técnico frente a las alternativas sostenibles y a las excepciones que establece ese impuesto. Yo creo que esa ha sido como gran parte del éxito de todo este proceso de regulación. Un ejemplo, tanto la ley de los productos plásticos de un solo uso como el impuesto nacional sobre los productos plásticos de un solo uso utilizados para empacar, embalar y envasar bienes incorpora el concepto del análisis de ciclo de vida, que básicamente lo que dice es si los productos sustitutos tienen un impacto ambiental mayor sobre el ambiente, por ejemplo, en cuanto a huella de carbono, huella hídrica, entre otros, si esos sustitutos tienen un impacto ambiental mayor, las prohibiciones no aplican, el impuesto no aplica. Entonces eso básicamente, y es de los pocos países en el mundo que tiene una medida de esta naturaleza, esa excepción de acuerdo a los resultados de análisis de ciclo de vida le trae ciencia a este tipo de reglamentaciones, debido a que pues, se evita que la transición hacia otros materiales no genere impactos adicionales sobre el ambiente. Al igual que esto, cuando uno mira las excepciones de la ley, de los plásticos de un solo uso, del impuesto y demás, pues hay muchos elementos muy técnicos y científicos que hacen que esta normativa sea de alguna manera sensata cuando se compara en el entorno internacional. Nosotros vemos una industria que está de manera muy acelerada, ya sea por presión mediática, por regulación o por la misma voluntad de las cadenas del plástico, está acelerando muy rápido hacia la sostenibilidad. Estamos viendo nuevas tecnologías en reciclaje mecánico y químico, estamos viendo nuevas tecnologías en separación de capas y materiales, estamos viendo avances en ecodiseño, estamos viendo posibilidades de incorporar materiales reciclados en productos que están en contacto con alimentos. Vemos una industria plástica que a la vuelta de 10 años va a ser completamente circular. Estamos viendo una industria plástica que no genera contaminación al ambiente, sino que por el contrario aprovechamos todo ese valor que tiene el plástico y los múltiples usos que tiene, y para eso estamos trabajando pues, la industria en Colombia, Plastilene en particular, y pues el gremio que trata de representarlos a todos.
Existe desde el 2014 este acuerdo ministerial 021 que exige regular a todos los productores para dar la tumba a los plásticos de uso agrícola. Se llama el acuerdo ministerial 021, que es la responsabilidad extendida del productor. ¿Qué involucra esta normativa ambiental? Involucra a todos, involucra a la empresa, involucra a los distribuidores, involucra a la empresa a la cual se le vende, involucra al consumidor final e involucra a los gestores que ya dan su vida útil final. En Ecuador hay varios gestores. Conjuntamente con la empresa hemos realizado varias visitas en campo a diferentes gestores, tanto en la zona sur como en la zona norte, dándoles a conocer que tenemos que tener aliados estratégicos para darle el cierre definitivo al plástico de uso agrícola, en este caso el plástico de invernadero.
Okay, so we have been able to see two geographies with legislations in different practices. In Ecuador, and talking about the materials that we work on at Grupo Plastilene, we have a legislation around the greenhouse plastic, and it invites us to close the material cycle and involve four main actors. These four main actors are plastic producers, us, After that, we have our customers or the farms that produce flowers, that grow flowers. Then we have the manager, which is the one that takes the material from the farm, and then the transformer, which is the one that gives new life to that material and changes that into new resins and products. So it is like a focus on closing the agricultural plastic cycle and working with these allies and generating teamwork where each one brings knowledge, technology, and purpose to abide by the regulation. Then we come to Colombia. And what happens in Colombia? Colombia has become a global referent regarding legislation that is articulated and responsible to. This legislation has gotten an articulation regardless of the agency issuing the Ministry of the Environment, the Congress of the Republic, or the Presidency of the Republic, with the plans for circular economy or the plan for managing single-use plastic. In this legislation, we have three main components: REP, which is a global legislation. After that, we go to prohibition of single-use plastic and then taxes. What's happened? These laws have opened windows to develop sustainable products that will make us generate exceptions where we can move into circularity and sustainability. One of the main ones is using recycled products, incorporating these recycled products into the new products that brings us to closing the cycle of the plastic life cycle and skipping it into the economy. What is the other legislation that is important here? What is like setting the trend? We are working through a global framework which is being generated in a global plastic treaty, and this is inviting us to rep, and the legislation based in science is the pathway that we need to follow. And Plastilene is working with the recyclers, checking that there is fair transitions and being part of the conversations in Korea and accompanying the industry and the producers and the users and managers of these waste and the government, so that we can legislate in a correct manner, increase recycling capabilities and the capability to handle these waste very well, and the legislation according to the capabilities of each country that is part of this global treaty. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Daniela and Ricardo. I think the legislation in Colombia is very complex, and it is good to have a synthetic summary of what's happening because it is not clear to everybody. As a group and as Plastilene, since we started with our sustainability plan, we have been committed to working with the institutions and participate and be a stakeholder, trying to have responsible legislation and based on science, as I said before. As I think we have achieved that very well with all the fears that we had as a guild, as an industry. We have clear and responsible legislation, and as Ricardo just said, it opens the doors to have sustainable and responsible products. Honestly, this has been part of the success of Plastilene as a company in geographical diversification. The Colombian regulation has forced us to reinvent ourselves and have really innovative products which have opened the doors for us in many countries. Something important to mention is for us to continue as a company, as a guild, as customers, suppliers, vendors, competitors, all of us responsibly need to abide by the regulation. I think each one of us has the obligation to follow up on the law and the same way audit for that enforcement of the law. All new laws create regulations that in many occasions are hard to understand and hard to apply. But I think it is the responsibility of all of us to do what is part of our capabilities to have the law being enforced. So my invitation is to, as a society and as a guild, do everything to follow the regulation, and I'm sure the future for the industry and the planet is going to be a lot better than it is today. Thank you, Stefano and Ricardo. Before going to our next video, which is from Guatemala and the United States, Ricardo has a final comment, and after that we will look at these videos from Guatemala and the United States. I wanted to highlight a very important point as part of the latest legislation that sets differentiated goals to each one of the plastics, the materials. And here we're talking about the fact that for all those plastics that are different from PET, high density, and rigid ones, there is a REP goal that is 30% of exploitation up to 2030 in Colombia. And here we need to join efforts because it is not enough with what we're doing today, mechanical recycling. We have new technologies for advanced and chemical recycling that are being implemented by Sentia and many other alternatives. But it's not going to be enough with what we have installed today. And as an industry, we need, as colleagues and as guilds, we need to generate a solution to these goals that are very strict and unique worldwide. Thank you, Ricardo. So now let's look at the video from Guatemala and the United States, which is what is happening regarding the legislation around plastic.
Es triste lo que tengo para contarles, porque realmente Guatemala no ha priorizado hasta el momento la protección de sus recursos naturales y no hemos generado este marco legal, regulatorio a nivel municipal también, que se enfoque en poder dar servicios básicos para que podamos dejar de contaminar. Realmente esa es como la gran tarea, dejar de contaminar. Está en discusión una ley de manejo de desechos. Estamos impulsando para que sea una ley marco y que tenga un enfoque de economía circular, pero todavía está en proceso. Una ley de aguas, pues llevamos 20, 30 años de esa conversación, tenerla paralizada, porque tiene que ser una conversación transparente, abierta y multiactor. Recientemente, hace una semana, el gobierno acaba de anunciar que empieza ese diálogo, esa conversación, y que va a durar unos 8 meses, un año. Entonces creo que ya llegamos al punto que está tan mal la cosa que ya empezamos a tener las conversaciones incómodas. Pero yo creo que media vez logremos pasar ese momento, vamos a tener consensos que son muy importantes, visión de largo plazo que es muy importante, hablábamos de anticiparnos, ¿verdad?, a lo que viene, y vamos a poder empezar ese camino a dejar de contaminar y a la restauración de los ecosistemas, porque tristemente Guatemala es un país con muchísima agua y vivimos una situación de escasez que está dañando la economía, la política y sobre todo la vida humana. Para mí es muy importante poder tener esos puentes cercanos donde uno pueda realmente entender las distintas perspectivas, y definitivamente Colombia va adelante, México también va adelante, Estados Unidos también va adelante. Entonces yo creo que para Guatemala es una oportunidad muy grande el tenerlos a ustedes dentro de una industria que, como dices tú, es de las más señaladas. Los ríos están recibiendo una gran variedad de desechos, están recibiendo desechos bioinfecciosos, electrónicos, hasta la materia orgánica contamina, pero lo que flota es el plástico, que también, por supuesto, es una problemática. Pero cuando lo vemos desde una perspectiva de la economía circular y entendemos que puede ser materia prima para un nuevo producto, pero también lo vemos con la responsabilidad que esto implica. Porque si nosotros somos parte del problema, pues tenemos que ser parte de la solución, y el hecho de que ustedes vayan adelante, ya tengan responsabilidad extendida del productor y otro montón de políticas y buenas prácticas, pues viene como pioneros a enseñarle a la industria guatemalteca del plástico. No es eliminar industria no es pelearnos, no es polarizarnos, que muchas veces hacia eso ha tendido la conversación, es realmente a encontrar puntos en común, a regularnos y a cada uno hacer lo que le compete. Hay mucho que aprender y la verdad estamos muy contentos que Plastilene está cerca para enseñarlo.
Want to introduce you to SIFT. We're one of Ohio's manufacturing extension partnerships, kind of working with the small, medium, and large manufacturers across the state of Ohio with a special emphasis on food processors. We are here to be a technical resource, a networking partner, and this is where our partnership with Plastilene came in, as we're trying to be that resource to the food processors across Ohio. Here in the U.S., regulations around plastic are still evolving, whether that be if people are going to be looking to that plastic recycled content or the contaminants, such as PFAs, of how the federal government's going to address some of these is, again, it is still in works at the federal level. Even if at the federal level we don't have regulations that go around all the states, we have some states that are leading the way. Whether you look at Colorado, California, New York, those states are kind of pushing ahead with some of the EPR regulations or laws. And I think it's going to be that companies can't think that even if they live in a state like Ohio right now that maybe doesn't have EPR laws on the books, that they're going to do business across all of the United States. And they can't put their head in the sand and say it doesn't affect them or it's not coming. They have to realize that they need to do their due diligence. They got to learn up about what the laws are asking for, whether that be incorporating more recycled content in some of their plastic packaging, elimination of some of the single-use plastic, and just that if they want to be a resilient, strong company in the future, they have to kind of know what's expected today with some of these states.
So I hope the videos had been interesting. I think that you are as impacted as us when you look at the Guatemala video when they say it is sad what I'm going to talk about, which is also really sad. But there is a lot of hope in Guatemala. We're starting to talk about the circular economy plan that has as the focus EPR. And since even though we are behind in the Colombian legislation, we're sure that we're going to move forward there. Guatemala is a significant partner of the United States, a big maquila. A lot of American companies are starting to demand sustainability thanks to Guatemalan producers. And we from Guatemala are serving all Central America, and it is very important to have sustainable plants as well as sustainable products, which is as the Plastilene group we're starting to do. Not long ago, I was at a customer's visit there in Guatemala, and the central point of the conversation was sustainability and circularity of the packaging industry. Maybe the positive and interesting part is that the Colombian experience has allowed us to get there with experience and knowledge that will allow us to help develop all these circular economy plans. We already have some players, maybe not in Guatemala, but in Salvador, that have some sustainable strategies already in place that are also very powerful, if you will. And that also makes us feel very proud and at peace and at ease. So the work that we need to do is a lot. We have the good experience and advantage that we are right behind them. All the Colombian and American experience can be applied in Guatemala, and we need to continue working very firmly and thoroughly to get a more sustainable economy in Guatemala. Here, we can start seeing that even though there is legislation in a different stage The language that we are talking or that we continue to talk is common because EPR has been a long time in Europe and other economies. It is present in Latin America. That circular plan of national economy in Guatemala involves EPR, and we have started harmonizing legislation and the conversation around the critical issues. Here we're showing you how we follow up on the legislation of the countries that we have a presence. We do that throughout the whole Americas and where we have commercial operations, but we're going to emphasize a little bit the United States today that has a different system. It is not national laws, but every state, just as Rachel just said, has their own legislation. And here we have the case of EPR. And there we have the states that have already started pulling this movement in the United States, where we have Maine, California, Washington, and where all the others start, Minnesota too. They have started developing solutions that have to be implemented in all the other states, because it is a global trend. It is a trend where all brands are being part, the stakeholders are being a part of it, so that we can close plastic life cycle and circular economy can move forward. We have chemical recycling, and here we need to validate advanced chemical recycling as an option that is valid to close this material cycle. We have different states. The legislation has been moving forward in a more massive manner in the United States. After that, we have materials that have recycled contents, especially bottles. The progressive states, we can mention California again, Maine, we're talking about New York, where they have started having recycled contents laws for bottles or plastic bags. Here we have the bottle bill, which is about reusage or storage for bottles. The ban, which is a very interesting legislation, because in some states that are a little bit more conservative, if you will, they have generated laws so that plastic cannot be banned. But on the other hand, what they are looking for is, as an industry, to develop solutions that will not necessarily prohibit, but better yet, generate circular economy solutions that are environmentally friendly without having to prohibit materials. And also a plastic bags ban, which is also starting, but where we have California, Hawaii, Washington, we have New York, and also Maine and other states that have implemented this prohibition. So this way we can connect specifically with our customers and generate like a guideline so that they can understand and apply the legislation depending on where they are located and what materials they use and what materials they work jointly with us. I would add a very important point into this sense, and that is the role played by the consumer. Also, in the Global Plastic Treaty, amazingly enough, you find that there is not much commitment from consumers. But if you look at it, regardless of having mechanical or chemical recycling, if we promote returning or drop off any mechanism, that people need to be involved and committed to the solutions that we are proposing from the industry. So it is really relevant to talk about this, because in Colombia, from where we are working in communicating through our customers, who are the ones that bring the message to the package, it is also starting to happen in Central America and also in the United States. And in Ecuador, the case is a little bit different because it is greenhouse plastic. But anyways, the invitation for those who own a brand to work jointly in that message that tells the user what to do with this packaging. Put it here, put it at such bin, clean it up and dry it up. It is really relevant. Right now, we don't have any questions on the chat. My invitation is for you to involve with us in this conversation. If you have any questions, please post them there. Before closing this event, we will answer them. And now to As Ricardo said, we're going to have the second part of this conversation. We're going to look at what from our companies in these geographies we are doing through our sustainable portfolio to service our customers and the global goals and serve their needs, and also to give an answer to the legislations. Right now, we're going to start in the United States, so look at what Plastilene Inc. is doing.
Plastilene has been working in eco-design as a group for several years. So here in the US, where we have our new plant, we have several products that are sustainable. One of which is the L board, which is the main reason why Plastilene is here in the US. We have developed a monomaterial, expandable plastic material to replace paperboard that is fully recyclable, fully sustainable for our customers and for the market. Here in Ohio, there's no specific regulations but affect the plastics market yet, but we as a company have been working together with other institutions to be proactive and to be ahead of the regulations that we are pretty sure that are going to be coming. We have examples in other markets where we work, in Europe, in South America, and we're pretty sure that those regulations that are needed for the market are going to come here. So all our experience over in those markets are going to help us to handle those regulations that are going to be coming. We are working with APR to certify that our products are recyclable. We are making some tests with them. We are ready to face regulations here in Ohio and in the US, together with our partners upstream and downstream in the value chain, taking advantage of all our experience in Colombia, in South America, and in other markets.
The use of monomaterial has been a significant gain here by Plastilene, and you will see it become broadly used on a global basis. That has many applications. It's as opposed to, it will replace multi-layered products that are currently used in packaging and go directly into the landfill, whereas the monomaterial can be recycled, and it offers many other benefits to the consumer and to the companies that are producing it. The state of Ohio has an economic development entity called Jobs Ohio, and they do a remarkable job of attracting industry and creating jobs to this state. They recently completed in 2022 a market study on recycling in Ohio, and their conclusion is that given the huge sector of plastics and rubber that is produced, #1 in the country, that's produced here in Ohio, they recognize the huge potential and the importance of recycling and circularity when it comes to plastics and rubbers and that entire family. Jobs Ohio, I think, recognized the innovative creativeness and the sustainable culture that Plastilene lives and puts into action in all of its activities. I think that there's a tremendous upside potential for plastics and packaging in the state of Ohio. It's evolving in terms of we have a long way to go with respect to gaining toward, let's say, the optimum goal of circularity. But when you take the engineering advancements, the scientific advancements and developments, and collaborate amongst the different stakeholders, we are coming up with solutions that will eventually get us to the goal. The Jobs Ohio and Plastilene are visionaries. They recognize opportunity, they recognize that there's going to be change and challenges, but they also recognize that this is a company that can make a significant impact across both the state as well as the United States. That's why Jobs Ohio chose Plastilene. They are inspiring. You know, you have to have a passion And this company has a passion, and that's the truth. And that's how I've always worked in my life, is you have to be passionate about what you do.
We are really excited and touched when we look at this video and see that the American adventure, how it becomes reality. It is a project that's been around for over 7 years, and we started visiting and trying to understand the American market. 7 years ago, the United States was really behind Colombia regarding regulations and sustainable issues. During these 7 years, they have evolved a lot, and part of the visits that we paid back then are the ones that have opened the doors for us to be there today. As Dan said, and as Guillermo very well said on the video, the motivator and the driver, the way to go into the United States has been innovation and sustainability. Sustainability is something that forces innovation. The products that we bring, it's two big leagues of products, fresh food and replacing paper in some applications where paper is not really sustainable. That's been very well received, and they have been winners. We just came back from the Packet Fair in Chicago, where we participated and launched innovative products, and I'm sure you will be hearing about them in the local market. And the acceptance that we have gotten because we are sustainable and innovative has been really significant, and I mention both because they both are very important regarding food and proteins. Besides sustainability, it's been more important the role played by innovation, having products that are more recyclable, and in the completely new business where it is hard to think that you can replace paper. There's a lot of paper out there that is not sustainable and that is not recyclable, and that's why it does not, and therefore it does not meet the requirements of circularity. So it's been a real challenge. It continues to be a challenge. Starting a new country is really complex, but we are really hopeful that our name has already started resonating, and we are being seen like a significant player in the sustainability and innovation side of the business. Ricardo, Luisa? Thank you, Stefano. What has become a reality, and that's been a reality for several years, is that we came from a model where we used to design functional products. We designed products that were competitive, efficient, and we offered the service. So we need to offer reliability and performance around that product. And then we started getting some additional characteristic regarding sustainability, carbon footprint, circularity, and regulations that forced us and faced us with new challenges. And now is how we balance all these functional characteristics that we used to have with these new attributes for sustainability, so we can have balanced solutions where we have some trade-offs, but in the end the offering to the market is the one that is the right one for that solution, for that need, taking into account environment as an essential part of that product offer and that value offering to the market. And to do that in the United States, we had to do it in a different manner. We're doing it different from what we do it in Latin America, because here we will work with the recyclers. We go to the associations to talk about collecting waste and set the value chain for recycled materials. In the United States, everything works differently. It's in big scale, it's industrialized, the stakeholders are the waste management companies at a big scale. And we need to validate that our materials have to go through those industrial processes to separate, identify the material structure, the shape of the material, for it to be identified as plastic or any other material. And that's why the tests Guillermo was talking about, that we talk with EPR, which is the Plastic Pickers Associations in the United States, and also the conversations with SPC, the Coalition for Sustainable Packaging, and also with the Association of Sustainable Packaging. They are orienting us as to what is the path that we need to take and how we need to go through that path for those recycling chains to be correctly set, and we can actually close plastic life cycle. So that is the way we're doing it. We're going to show you now how we are implementing that in Guatemala.
Hoy en Guatemala, en la región, en México, no hay legislaciones específicas que nos apoyen o nos brinden soluciones como tal para poder reciclar los materiales, para poder reincorporarlos, para poder tener una cadena o un cierre de ciclo completamente desarrollado. Las tendencias que están requiriendo en este momento y los clientes nos están exigiendo y solicitando, y más que eso demandando, es poder hacer cierres de ciclo. ¿Qué es lo que ellos quieren? Quieren uno o monomateriales para poder, en efecto, hacer el cierre de ciclo. Quieren películas con menos plástico, más livianas, o quieren que nosotros desarrollemos otro tipo de resinas como biodegradables. Seguir buscando soluciones integrales, pero ya están pidiendo cosas muy claras como los monomateriales y películas menos densas.
Independiente de la existencia del marco de las regulaciones, en las regiones en donde participamos, el desarrollo de un portafolio de productos sostenibles ha sido parte de nuestro ADN desde hace mucho tiempo atrás, como una oferta de valor hacia nuestros clientes y aportando al logro de sus objetivos.
Los clientes de Grupo Plastilene, Tecnofilms en Guatemala, que abarcamos de México a Panamá tratando de brindar el servicio integral, lo que valoran de nosotros es la honestidad, la veracidad con la que podemos transformar, indicar, desarrollar nuestros productos e indicar sin greenwashing, decir las cosas como son, los desarrollos que podemos hacer, tanto no solo nosotros como proveedores de película, sino desde poder hacer alianzas con nuestros proveedores de materias primas, con los de las máquinas, con nuestros clientes, grandes marcas, y no solo grandes marcas, ahora ya se puede evidenciar, constatar y comprobar que la mayoría de clientes nos están exigiendo y estamos tratando de desarrollar no solo una solución de empaque, sino una solución sostenible para que tengamos una solución integral hacia el consumidor final.
Okay, so we can see that regardless of the how stringent the regulation can be in Guatemala, what we have done is we have brought all the experience and sustainable product portfolio from Colombia to Guatemala by listening and meeting the needs of these markets. We have big chains there that have their own sustainability strategies and big national companies that have their own commitments regarding incorporating recycled materials and composting. And we have brought this solution with films that are laminated that used to have 3 materials, and now we are doing them with 2 materials, and the next steps is having them with 1 material. We have recycled content materials in Guatemala, and also we're bringing solutions to set the closing of the cycle, and also the reduction of materials, the plastic content, by decreasing the caliber or the density in our products. So to the service of Central America and our plant in Guatemala, we have all the knowledge that we have developed as a group regarding circularity, sustainability, and innovations so that our customers can use that. Thank you, Ricardo. I think it's very important to clarify some points in Central America. Central America is many countries, so it's a lot of regulations, a lot of needs, and many markets and different products. One that is to us very important is Mexico. Mexico is a player where not only the domestic market is important, but also Mexico's export market towards the United States is also relevant. Therefore, sustainability pressure is high. As Valeria said, and as I said before, during our latest tour, we were able to see the willingness and the need of the brands to be sustainable and find solutions. Also, too, because one way or another, the industry, the Central America industry, that has a lot of maquila is competing against the globe industries. We have maquila from the Far East, from the United States, from Europe. We get products from Europe and from Far East and from South America, and compliance for them is a demand and something that is really important. And as Ricardo was saying, we are developing products and using our know-how, and also including PCR that is made by us. And we are assessing also the possibilities to create partnerships or make investments to make circularity come true in Central America and in Guatemala. So that is kind of what we wanted to talk about today. Work there to be done there. We still have a lot of work to do there, and in Central America, just as in any other region where we are, it's not a plastilene project. It is a project that includes everybody, and I think it's important to have clarity on that. If we do not contribute all the stakeholders of the chain, the links of the chain that comes from the to the consumer, the producer, and the people that are moving this, but we are moving forward. They are asking for that, and I think all these prohibitions and regulations should not worry us. We should be rest assured that if we comply with them, the future of our industry is promising just as well as the planet's future. Thank you, Stefan and Ricardo. There is a very important stakeholder that we want to talk about right now, and that is academia. At Grupo Plastilene, we have been approaching university students that are committed with doing something different, that are going into specialization or master's degrees. And these students that we talk to and bring circular economy a little bit more into reality are the professionals that we run into at our customers' offices, working in innovation, packaging, and development. And that is why we want to talk about the work that we have been doing with the academia, both in Colombia and in Guatemala. Very soon we're going to start doing that in Ecuador and also in the United States, which is another good new place that we have decided to bring the experience from the other countries. So now let's look at that work in Ecuador in our next video.
Agroplásticos es una empresa del Grupo Plastilene que inició sus operaciones hace más de 25 años aquí en Quito, Ecuador, para consolidarse como uno de los principales proveedores de plástico para el sector agrícola. En este caso, Agroplásticos fabrica soluciones, películas de polietileno para invernaderos. Lo fabricamos de una manera sostenible y alineados a toda la normativa ambiental de nuestro país. Hoy en día estamos formando alianzas estratégicas con gestores ambientales, con distribuidores y con clientes para trabajar de una forma sostenible y alineados a la normativa ambiental. Y de paso dar un cierre de ciclo a este plástico y incluirlo dentro de la economía circular.
Para Hoja Verde es muy importante trabajar con un proveedor como Agroplásticos porque nos sentimos muy acorde a las políticas, a los valores que Agroplásticos maneja. Nosotros buscamos alianzas estratégicas y asociados de negocio que nos ofrezcan productos de calidad, que nos ofrezcan productos que aporten en nuestra producción de rosas, y el plástico es uno de los principales en nuestro sector. Con agroplásticos tenemos en común el hecho de concientizar a la gente y socializar el tema de que el plástico, en nuestro caso, para poder producir las rosas que producimos, el único material que podemos poner en los invernaderos es el plástico. Lo correcto es el tratamiento que damos al plástico luego de su vida útil.
Para Hoja Verde es importante, obviamente, la sostenibilidad, y dentro de esto está de cerrar el ciclo de un producto de la mejor manera. En este sentido hemos visto gestores de la zona, ¿sí?, de Cayambe, de Tabacundo, que cumplan con los requisitos ambientales y legales. No solo el tema económico, sino también la parte técnica como tal. Para elegir a los gestores ambientales, lo que hicimos es convocar a los gestores de acá de la zona, ¿sí? Luego hicimos la revisión de la parte legal, que ellos cumplan con un registro ambiental o licencia ambiental, que es lo que nos exige la normativa, ¿sí? Una vez que definimos cuáles sí cumplían con esta normativa legal ambiental, sí fuimos a la parte técnica, es decir, que nos garanticen hacia dónde va el desecho, qué van a hacer con el desecho. Una vez que revisamos esto en los gestores, fuimos a la parte económica, a ver el costo que nos daban por cada desecho reciclable.
Nosotros comenzamos como recolectores pequeños en fincas. Entonces, de ahí algunos proveedores con los que tenemos hasta ahora relación son los que continuamos trabajando. Entonces, principalmente aquí en Tabacundo y Cayambe son el sector florícola. Entonces, todo lo que abunda aquí prácticamente son empresas florícolas. Todas tienen plástico de invernadero, y aquí donde nosotros armamos ya convenios con las empresas para ser los gestores de ellos. Tenemos productores de tomate de árbol, productores de pimientos, productores de pepinillos, en fin, hay varias fuentes de las que tenemos. Otra de las fuentes que nosotros tenemos también son los pequeños gestores. Van acumulando sus materiales y vienen personalmente a la fábrica y nos entregan a nosotros el material. Ahora los residuos plásticos se procesan manualmente para que puedan ingresar en un molino. Al momento que ingresan en el molino, se tritura, se lava lo que humanamente es posible y entra en una máquina extrusora. Al momento que pasamos por la extrusora es donde se da la transformación. Se derrite el material y nos ayuda para formar nuevamente materia prima, que puede ser utilizado para hacer manguera de riego, manguera para cables eléctricos o también plásticos de contrapiso. Nosotros acá contamos con todos los permisos ambientales, pero no ha sido de la noche a la mañana. Ser un gestor aquí en el Ecuador es un reto, es complicado porque deberíamos tener un poco más de incentivos o leyes que vayan a favor de nosotros. En cambio, vienen las regulaciones, es comprensible que existan estas regulaciones, pero son más exigentes y no todos los gestores estamos en la capacidad muchas de las veces para cumplir todas las obligaciones. Nosotros estamos en un proceso de adaptación, estamos utilizando las nuevas tecnologías, pero es un progreso, es un proyecto que va a ir avanzando poco a poco.
Plastilene has always wanted to be an innovative company, and the agricultural issue maybe was the pillar of innovation. We were the first ones to develop those films and create some products that were brought to Europe and developed countries. Out of this innovation trend in the flower growing sector continues, and in the Ecuador's case, which is the second biggest market regarding agricultural film, is not the only one though. Agroplásticos also works as a launch of the industrial products that all the group makes in South American regions. And we have continued with this initiative of innovation and sustainability. As part of the strategy that we have designed in Plastilene and we revised last year, we have some pillars that allow us to have an adaptable and flexible strategy in the various regions. In Ecuador's case, we have emphasized alliances, and as you were able to see on the video, we have done significant work of alliances with managers and local recyclers and pickers, because we see that is the way to get circularity in all the products we have. As a company, we would love to do everything, but sometimes models will not give you that opportunity, or not enough, or we don't have the resources to do so. So these alliances and partnerships become very relevant and important. We have achieved a lot. We have gone a long way. As Plastilene, starting last year, we have started participating in regulations in Ecuador. We are participating at the government level in all regulations. What a surprise. They didn't know in Ecuador that there was a producer of agricultural films that had foreign capital. But with this intervention, we have also made this Ecuador legislation to be really based on economic and scientific basis. And so that's what we have achieved. We're going to continue working, and as I said, that is the point, to launch many products that are sustainable, innovative, that have already been tested in Colombia, and that are being successful also in the South American markets. No, I'm sorry, Ecuador, Peru, and the ones that we service from Ecuador. In Ecuador, this work with all the chain to close the material cycle has been a wonderful experience, with the contribution of all of them in the know-how and looking for markets for these products. And here I want to stop, because not just for Ecuador, but also for Colombia and all the other geographies where there is a point where we all need to be committed to. And that is, if we don't have a market for these products, then that circular economy is loses its foundation, because it is pure economy where we need financial support so that the activity can happen. And in this case, what we are promoting is finding various applications for the products that our allied managers are generating, and identify what other products can be produced in Ecuador. And in the specific Ecuador case, we have the local closing of circularity of agricultural material, and also the materials that we send for food that are exported from Colombia or from the industry, have the innovations that accompany their regulations and sustainability, like using fewer materials, or maybe in the future materials that have recycled content, or monomaterials where we have more recyclability. Today we are in Reciclin. We call it our plant, we call it Resi, out of love, and Plant 2, because we started many years ago with recycling post-industrial materials. We have Joanna here with us, who is our innovation leader, and Fabian, who is our plant manufacturing manager in Reciclene. And we want to have this live analysis of what we're doing in Colombia. But before I go with them, before I give them the floor, I was thinking about that beginning 2020, we broadcasted here during the pandemic 4 years ago, and we were starting the journey that we also see in Ecuador today. And today we have a more consolidated and mature situation. A legislation that is growing with extended responsibility, producer responsibility, and developed, that is happening in all the geographies globally. A global plastic treaty that talks about legislation based in science, and that EPR that is one of the main pillars, and a series of innovations in sustainability that will incorporate the measuring of the carbon footprint that is part of the analysis that we run with the life cycle that we will talk about with Joanna as another important component of the analysis, but where reduction, recycling, reuse, and assessment of renewable products based on eco-design and on a design for recyclability are part of the comprehensive offer that we have to give our customers. I'm going to give the floor to Fabian, who's going to talk about how we have moved forward in recycled materials, about recycled materials. Thank you, Ricardo. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm broadcasting from our Reciclene plant, where for over 6 years we started with this process to have a real alternative to the industry of having PCR resins that are 100% Colombian. We have the certificate for these resins by an agency that has the accreditation by UNAC that guarantees that all the materials have traceability and stability that will help us for the process, that will help us guarantee that the resins can be used in more and more complex products. We're doing secondary packaging, we're doing some primary packages that have no contact with food. And all of this is based on a strategy from the beginning where supplying this resin is something really complex. Today we have a lot more control on that. We have a more stable process that, as I said before, allows us to guarantee stability of our raw material. Raw material that has a specification sheet, technical sheet that has some very controlled ranges and specification to be used as raw material. We are really proud today to be able to talk about our first patent, which is a patent of Cicolene Plus that brings together the best of what we do in Reciclene, which is have composites with material low charges, and today we have a raw material that guarantee that the exceptions to the norm can be complied with this material. So Joanna, you can help us a little bit more with the analysis and the supports regarding life cycle. Thank you very much, Fabian. We're really happy to be here today and to have you here today with us in this review of what we have done. As Fabian is saying, we are really proud of our Resina Ciclolene material. The first point is an alternative for products cycle closing. And the second one is that approach that is very important in making decisions based on science. So we're always going to find a lot of options, alternatives on the market. We're always debating as to what is the right path to follow. And we think that the way to go forward is to be based on science, investigate and review. One of the tools that we use is this life cycle analysis to see the product in a comprehensive manner from the beginning to the end. So we're proud to know that we have applied these methodologies to the Ciclolene resins, and we're contributing to reduce over 60% on the carbon footprint when we use these resins. And that reduction is also applied to the products that are made with these materials. That is a very important first point. The second point is that from the sustainable portfolio, and maybe a lesson learned after working in sustainability, is that our mission is not to develop products. I think it goes beyond that. Right now, I think that our mission is to create culture, sustainability culture and innovation culture. And that goes beyond giving our clients and the market some products. So we want to have that impact from the co-design methodologies. Valeria mentioned that in Guatemala by telling the truth. Sometimes we don't like to hear the truth. Maybe the product is not what we want. That brings us at a very important departure point, because it makes us look at the things in a different manner and be open to change, which is what we want to work on from our sustainable portfolio. We have a portfolio talking about monomaterial, PCR materials, and many other interesting things that we ask you to accompany us to continue with this innovation. Thank you, Fabian, Joanna, for this talk and for showing a little bit more how we're doing a reality of this offer. We have questions on the chat box. We have a lot of questions. But we're going to invite you to stay with us. We're going to answer the first three questions that we find very interesting. And after that, we can answer through the email the questions that we don't have enough time to answer right now. The first question: what has been the experience of getting to the United States with that amount of regulations that you find in every state? That is a question that is really interesting. I think that the guides given by the institutions are really valuable, as well as understanding that it is a path that, even though it is a journey that not many started, a lot of people will starting. It's like what happened with PFAS, which is complying the fact that we don't have fluorinated products in our products. They have contamination by fluor, and the customers say that was prohibited in 2 states, and that is something that we all have to have. But the customers implement for the whole country. They implement that for the whole country because they cannot say, well, this product goes to California and this other product goes to New York. They have a production and then they distribute that all throughout the territory. Same for our raw material producers, distributors. So all the resins that we receive, and here I would like to mention them, that are helping us in innovation and sustainability, and all the resins that they are delivering are free of PFAS. So the way we do that is following the leaders, understanding that we need to transition regarding, depending on the capabilities and how well received we are. I would like to add something. It is very important to keep the focus. In the United States, different from the markets where you have portfolios of thousands of products, the market is very big and being focused is very important. In the United States, we have 2 product lines. And those 2 product lines are very well focalized, and we have clarity as to the regulation. So I think being able to have that limited scope can help us understand the regulations and respect them, to abide by them. I'm going to say this again. The United States has a lot of regulations and very varied too. But Colombia has more, and they're more sophisticated, so we're not scared. We need to understand them and enforce them. But the focus, keeping focus, is very important. Well, thanks, Ricardo and Estefano. We have a question from Jorge Arturo Castañeda. One of the biggest challenges to use plastic in a new manner is reverse logistics. What are the projects that you are developing to achieve this goal? So we in Colombia, which is where we have our post-consumption plant, we have partnerships with different suppliers that can be waste picker associations or environmental managers and some customers, and that's where we can implement these channels, these two-way channels in handling materials. Having in-house operations or having agreements through their environmental managers to bring those materials back to our facilities. And we do this also through logistic operations, where the trucks that we use to deliver the products in Reciclene, to deliver them to our customers, we use them to bring this material back to our plant. And we also generate some efficiency methodologies, and everything is compacted. We support our suppliers so they can have the tools that can help them generate critical masses and compact the materials. And then we can use and generate less contamination in transportation using these freights that come to our plants. Thank you, Ricardo. Last question. that we're going to answer live, but we will answer them individually or on the chat, is by Henry Ramos. How reliable are these materials to get in touch with the food, since they could be a probable source of contamination? Currently, we're working hard to improve the quality of our resins. Currently, we're not FDA grade. We have a series of restrictions that we need to continue attacking through technology and supply chain, which we need to guarantee supply chains that are very stable, so that with the technology we can get to an FDA resin. That is not impossible. That is something that we're working on, and we have that as a focus. To what we have today is not FDA, but it allows us to have applications in secondary packaging, repackaging. We have validated in labs abroad and analysis in migration that allow, and to be able to say certainly that we don't have any problem for secondary packaging. And also, it is a very important alternative for the construction sector. This material is very good for the construction sector. They're not so difficult, these regulations. Joanna, thank you, Fabian. To supplement that, from innovation, we have some projects. We're working with advanced recycled resins that do have FDA approvals and are suitable to work in food packaging. Some of the new projects they're not made by us right now, but we do have partners in the industry that are giving us support, and some customers that are working with us that are working on this project using advanced recycled resins for food. If I may, if we look at the status at the global level, we do have mechanical plants recycling plants that are FDA approved. Part of a process is part of the recollection, the picking of the raw material that we use. Many of these plants have what they call pre-consumption, which is a cleaner, less contaminated raw material, but we have structures that have mechanical recycling that are approved by the FDA, and we're working together out here in Colombia. The challenge is what raw material can we start with, and what we do in Reciclene is a little bit more demanding because we're actually using a post-consumption product. So that is actually what we pick from the garbage at the households and on the streets. And then I also think first, science is moving forward, it's advancing. So everything that has to do with advanced recycling, we have a lot of different technologies. It's also getting stronger. It has goods and bads. When you do an LCA, a carbon footprint analysis, advanced recycling does not seem to be so promising, at least so far. The mechanical one is also moving forward, and we do have promising results there. So I think this is something that is evolving. We're going to see the results very soon, very, very soon. I think that the future of recycled material is going to be applicable to all projects and all products. Understanding that it is hard to get the products exactly as the original one, we're all going to have to contribute something so that we can use it. But the future is really promising. Thank you all. Two little points to round a question up, which is really big. We also do PET for food solutions, where we have PCR solutions in contact with food, and also the solutions Stefano was talking about that also come from bottles in the United States. We have incorporated into our innovative solutions, where we could also have packages that are 100% contents of mechanical recycle that are available in the North American market, in the United States, and in Latin American, together with our vendors. So now we're closing our event. Before I give the floor to Stefano to listen to him. On my side, I would like to thank all of you who have contributed to Plastilene's journey on sustainability. All of those people who have believed in us, that have opened their doors as pioneers, that has been efforts but also satisfaction, and that we work more strongly and with more participation and more credibility from all our stakeholders in Colombia and in Central America, South America, and North America. And all those associations, vendors that support us and help us move forward. Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you all. Thanks especially to those of you who are listening to us. I would like to close with a message that I think is important. That is, one, we need to work with optimism and a lot of enthusiasm. Regulations can scare us, prohibition may scare us, but if we look at that, they are not only necessary, but they're also opening doors and creating opportunities. And I say this because the regulations, just as they find plastic products that need to be replaced, there are alternatives that are going to be replaced by plastic products. So I think the future and the needs are huge. What the world economies are projecting and forecasting, and growth is exponential in food and goods consumption that calls for packaging that need to be innovative and sustainable. So what I would like to leave you with is we need to be enthusiastic, optimistic, and passionate. This continues to move forward. We have a lot of challenges, yes. The financial part of the financial and the economic analysis can be, the deterrent for some projects. But if we look at that, the financial part is also going to be solved. We're doing that in Plastilene. Many investments do not make any sense from the financial standpoint, but from the responsible, strategic, and social standpoint, they do make sense. So my invitation is for all of us to work together. If we work together, this is going to happen faster, and we're going to have better results for companies, the society, and the planet. So I thank you all for having been here, and see you next year with more new things and innovation. Thank you all for having logged in our YouTube channel to follow us. If you had to leave and then come back again, it's going to be recorded. You're going to be able to find that in our YouTube channel /Grupo Plastilene. Follow us on social media. And with this positive and hopeful message from Stefano, we thank you for being with us. We'll meet again next year or before if we have something else to tell you. Big hugs and have a great day.